All right, so I did want to talk about durian rider protocols, a couple other diet things, in a couple minutes, but I wanted to start off with saying maybe telling fat jokes about myself wasn't the best idea. My name is Ryan. Let's talk about it. So, the one thing that I've been reading a lot lately is about quantum physics, and I've always been interested in physics. I've told the story in a couple of my videos that back when I was in high school, I actually tested out of chemistry so I could take physics because I was always more interested in physics because it's something that can be changed and modified and like when you go into the realm of quantum physics, things don't make a whole lot of sense. They don't really follow the boundaries of the three-dimensional world that we live in. But if you look at chemistry or biology, which is a lot of human biology and biomechanics and all that, it is interesting, but it has to follow the laws of the 3D world. So I got to thinking, maybe the people and myself who have failed on like a durian rider protocols or like a start solution or whatever it might be, might have these thoughts in our heads of things that really are not going to allow us to thrive on these diets. So like, look at Durian Rider. He's really never been overweight, and this is not a making fun of. This is not he's a bad person because he's never been overweight. This is just a reality of his situation. Or if you look at Natasha, the person that he is with right now, I don't know what their situation is, but he's with her right now. She has also never been overweight, so she doesn't understand that life, right? So somebody who is coming into this with the mindset of somebody who's been over 400 pounds, 500 pounds, 600 pounds, they might have that, like, I'm a big person, mentality, or they might tell jokes about themselves to kind of cope with it or whatever it is. And you might keep doing this stuff when you go into a diet. So another example of this is when I first got onto vegan, I went fully raw. And the reason I went fully raw was because I had come across Arnold at Arnold's Way in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. And he met me off the train one time. I've told this story like 1,000 times, I feel like. And he's like, "You're pretty fat. I've got, something that'll help you." And it was something completely different than anything I'd ever tried before. I had started seeing the vegan life thing actually when I went to become a nutrition coach back in my day when I was actually in good condition. And I had seen this stuff called vegan. And I'm like, well, where do you get your protein? Typical American, right? Oh, typical any country really right now at this point. And I remember just thinking how stupid it was. I'm like, why would anybody do this? You can't, there's no animals in this, right? But I'm like, well, nothing else that I've done worked. I did keto carnivore, back and forth for about 10 years. And, of course it worked in the beginning. And so I had that mindset that it's working, and all of a sudden it wasn't. So I came into it and I'm like, all right, I'm going to fully try this. And he's like, the only way this is going to work is if you do raw vegan. And I remember starting to have that implanted in my head that the only way the vegan works is if you're raw, right? So when I was raw, I was losing all weight like crazy. And then I told people about my schedule got so stupid and everything that it was a lot easier to add starches back in. I didn't even know what the starch solution was until I think 2019 or 2020. So I had no idea who McDougall was even up until that point. I had really never come across him. So fast forward to that time when I started adding in starches, and maybe I had that thought in my mind that, like, wow, you can only lose weight on raw foods. So I'm probably going to start gaining weight. And I probably put that out there. And I did gain a little bit of weight. Right? I did gain a little bit of weight. And so maybe people do this about themselves. Maybe somebody's like, well, I'm going on this diet, but nothing's ever worked before. And they say this to themselves. And if you look at quantum physics, they talk about atomic, subatomic, and electrons and all that kind of. They don't appear until you see them. So it's like you won't see it until you believe it type thing. So they believe that they've always failed at a diet, so they're always going to fail at a diet, and they put that out there, and they get what they are talking about back. So then eventually they do something crazy like starve themselves. And when they starve themselves, eventually the human biology is going to obey the law of that it is under constraint of. Eventually, when you starve yourself, you are eventually going to start losing weight. It's always going to happen. But when you do that, it does screw up a lot of things in your body. It screws up your metabolism. It screws up your hormone balance. It screws up a lot of things. And when you start that modality, it will work in the beginning, but you have to keep going on a decreasing level of calories, because you are screwing up your metabolism and it's going down, 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 and down. And this is why DURIANRIDER and other people tell you to eat ad libitum. If you look at the Genetic Code or whatever that book is by Neil Barnard that I have over on the shelf that I'm pointing at right now, he says that one of the worst things you can do to yourself is the traditional cut 500 calories out of your diet and exercise more. He's like, that screws you up so bad. Don't do that. Don't do it. But people do this because they're like, well, and then people start just disliking themselves or hating themselves or whatever, and they start almost having pleasure in the fact that they are cutting out these calories and exercising, and they're torturing themselves instead of just nurturing yourself and realizing that it's not really about the weight loss, it's about the recovery from all the yo-yos that you've been on. Like my grandmother, she was constantly on a yo-yo diet her entire life. And she took herself to a physical, checkup one day when she lived in Chicago. And on the table, her heart exploded and she died immediately. And they said that when they did an autopsy, her heart was in pieces everywhere. It blew up like a grenade. And they said it was probably because the body was so stressed out for the constant yo-yo dieting and weight changes she was always going through. Like, I remember she used to come out pretty much every Thanksgiving or Christmas. She would alternate it, with my grandfather. And she was always a different weight. And I remember that. And you kind of got that implanted. And when I was growing up, you got implanted that my mother and my grandmother, they were always talking about weight. So I had that in the back of my mind. Meanwhile, you have somebody like my best friend, and his family didn't have these beliefs, and they ate whatever the hell they wanted to. They were always skinny. And I'm like, I'm over here eating, quote, healthy. And these people are over here eating Chef Boyardee and whatever else. And like, they're fine, eating an entire box of Oreos in one sitting, and they're fine. And I'm like, why? What is the difference here? Is it just, and I didn't know this back then. I didn't really, do quantum physics back then. Maybe it was just their belief that it was fine to eat that. They had no issues with it. None of them were overweight at all. They were just completely fine. So when I start reading books about quantum physics and how what you think and what you talk about, and what you see is what you get, that might just be the fact. I mean, if you watch all those DURIANRIDER hate videos from back in the day, they all say the exact same thing. They all say, well, it just happened like it happened on the other video I ate, and blah, 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 blah. And maybe they were, eating too much. I don't know. But or maybe they weren't eating, or maybe they just wanted views, or maybe anything. Maybe they were just telling themselves, like, this isn't going to work, but I'm going to try it anyways. This isn't going to work, but I'm going to try it anyways. It's just like, if you're constantly hating on something, you always get it back. Or like when you wake up in a bad mood one morning, you're probably going to have like a crazy day if you don't change your mindset. So if the mindset going in is, I've always been fat, I'm always going to be fat, but I'll try this diet anyway. And you just tell everybody, well, I've always been fat. I'll try it, but it's probably not going to work. And your body's going to internalize it. And they're like, all right, this isn't going to work. You can try it. You just go on this, whatever, and we'll just be fat. So anyways, the bottom line of this video is, maybe it is just a mindset going into this, or maybe it's like, people who don't have success on things, they'll type about it. They'll talk about it. They'll think about it all day about how it's not working, and they get it back. You're always going to get back what you're thinking and what you're talking about. So if you're always talking about how it's not working, how it's, blah, 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 or like, my body hates me, or, it's just not going to work for me, or it's, it worked for them, or one of the, well, I haven't seen enough before and after pictures, right? I haven't seen enough before and after pictures, so I'm just not going to do it. Or I didn't find a study that supported this, so it's not going to work, because these studies that are paid off by big pharma over here to sell a product, they don't say that this is going to work, so it's just not going to work. So I'm just not even going to do it. Or I'll do it, but I know it's not going to work because this study over here said, blah, 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 blah. And you get caught up in this. And I'm not saying I've never had this happen, but you watch it, and you watch when you go into the comments section, especially after I made that sugar video with Joe Rogan. Those people were, I had to delete like 150 comments off that video because it was so crazy to me. Like, it didn't add anything. It was just making fun of everybody in the world, and they hate everything, and like, this is why it works, and it doesn't really work. So if it hasn't worked for you, maybe check your mindset, what you're talking about, what you're saying. Read the comments that you make on other videos. Maybe that right there is telling you what you need to know. Maybe just check this stuff out. Maybe check how angry you are about something, or how you want to correct somebody, or whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying I haven't done that in the past, or still probably do it in the future, but really check your mindset before you get into something. Like, check out where you're at, because if you are not happy with where you're at right now, if you're not happy with anything that's going on in your life right now, chances are real good that it's not going to work at all, because you are just in that mindset. So work on that first. Maybe start the diet. Like McDougall said, that every single one of the people that came to his in-person, whatever they were, workshop or courses or whatever, the 12-day thing program, they all lost weight. They all lost weight, but it's about, what do you do when you get out of that situation? What is your mindset when you're not in that anymore? Can you continue that mindset on into the future? And this goes on into any aspect of life. It really does. Like any, like relationship, work, whatever it is, sleep patterns, whatever it is, right? This continues on, and what you're thinking about expands. Wayne Dyer used to talk about this. What you think about expands. What you talk about expands. So if you're always, now I know I'm repeating myself, but you don't really get things, like if I just came up here and said this one time and just pieced out, like, you wouldn't probably understand it. So I'm repeating myself for a reason here. Probably for myself too, right? Because I have gone to, if you watch my videos, I talk about this. Like recently, I've been exercising every day because I started having a healthy mindset. Now, is it forcing, like real hard working, breathing real hard, like, shaking afterwards because I run myself out of glycogen? No, it's just been on the bike right here, which is on the trainer because the weather's been crazy lately, or up in the, on the Cellerciser. And I'm in the like green zone, which is, zone 2, like a talking conversation. If you can't have a conversation while you're exercising, chances are you're going too hard. You're not like an Olympic athlete. You're not going to be going to train for the Ironman, whatever. If you are, then you're, that's a different thing. But if you're not training for that, why are you trying to train like an athlete? Like, we are kind of all athletes, but we're not getting paid for it, right? You're not getting paid to be this athlete. So take it easy on yourself. The bottom line of this video is take it easy on yourself. Really get a different mindset. Maybe write this stuff down. Maybe start writing this stuff down on a pad of what you want to see. Then start repeating that to yourself every day. And eventually, if you talk about it enough, you'll start believing your own words. Charles Capp talks about this. I don't have that little booklet over here. I showed that little booklet, or I think I showed that little booklet in one of my videos about just different things out of the Bible that helped people get where they wanted to go. So I don't think I have anything else to add about this, but I actually think I'll probably make more videos about this because I changed my belief starting at the beginning of the year. This wasn't even like a conscious thing. This really wasn't a New Year's resolution type thing. I just kind of changed my mindset about like, look, I like riding bike. I used to love riding bike. It has like admittedly not been as good since the surgery because my ankle's fixed and it's not as enjoyable as it used to be, but I still like riding bike. Maybe that's even still a belief of mine that I should get rid of. Or, just being on the Cellerciser at night, just doing like a health bound stretching, hand over, like just, or doing the swimmers or whatever it is, right? Just on the trampoline or the Cellerciser and having fun with that. That's another thing I'm going to talk a little bit more about is the Cellerciser. I think everybody should have one. Those things are incredible. If you are interested in trampoline or mini trampoline or whatever, I always link it down in the description section, the Cellerciser. Go check it out. I know they're a lot more expensive than when I bought them. But, I mean, if you really think about it, like if you do yoga or something like that, it's usually $100 a month. And it's like $1,200 a year just to go do yoga when you can get the same result off a mini trampoline by just being in your house, right? Whatever. But anyway, it's all about your beliefs and what you believe to be true. So if you believe, like for example, I used to tell fat jokes on Sunday. I would just jokingly say that, you telling me a fat joke, like I would pick something that somebody said and I was at a fat joke. But I stopped doing that because like you start living in that. Or like when I went to the chiropractor for the first time and he told me I was fat and he told me to start riding bike. I'm like, all right, so this is going to work. And it did, and I had people at his office and I really didn't believe it was working at first. But when I went into his office, people are like, oh, wow, you really look a lot different. You look like you've lost a lot of weight. And I started believing that. And I started doing everything that involved with doing that. Now, I have noticed that once I get to like 240, 250 pound range, it really doesn't matter what I eat. I can lose weight. So, I started adding, like vegan cookies and stuff to my diet and I was still losing weight. But I had that belief that it really didn't matter what I was eating anymore. Like as long as it's vegan and I really like eating it. Or like when Arnold, the same guy that I referred to earlier, he's got this phrase like, if it's not yummy to my tummy, I don't eat it, right? So he's not going to eat like kale and stuff like that. But he's still in great shape. He's almost 80. And he's still running. He still works like 12 hours a day. That's his thing, right? And he still really likes doing it. And he's got that belief. And he's got that health mentality. He's helped thousands of people. So I had that like mentality in 2016. Like if this ain't yummy to my tummy, I ain't eating it. So like vegan cookies, they're yummy to my tummy. But I wasn't eating like anything like that wasn't good, that like didn't taste good. So like, I think the most greens I had was just, salad and asparagus. Anyway, this is just food for thought. Just thinking. Write this stuff down. Write what your goals are down. Don't and let it go. Also, don't be too up in it. Don't. The best thing that you can do is write down a goal. Talk about a goal to yourself. Don't talk about it to other people, and just let it go and just go on with your day. And I know that's harder said or easier said than done because, I'm a human. But that is the video that I wanted to make. So the DURIANRIDER protocols, I know this really wasn't 100% about the DURIANRIDER protocols, but the DURIANRIDER protocols do work. Like I've done it. Like have you seen pictures of me from 2016? I was doing DURIANRIDER protocols with cookies. So I know it works. The raw vegan works. I did it. I went from, you guys have seen the 405 pound or whatever. I know the highest weight that I saw on the scale at the doctor's office was 405, but I know I got bigger than that. So I don't know what the final weight was, but you saw the 400 some pound version of me get down to 225, and that's where I'm comfortable. But I'm comfortable now. Like I'm happy with it. If the weight comes off, great. I just woke up, by the way, so if everybody's hearing my voice. Yeah, so they work. But you got to believe that they work. Or if you're watching videos about how they don't work and you're going to talk about how they don't work and you're going to comment about how stupid he is, you're going to get that back. I mean, it's got to happen, right? You have to, what you say is going to come back to you. So no matter the situation. So now, if you're just joking about certain things, you don't really say things a lot, it's not a big deal. But if you're always saying something, then you're always going to get it back. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. Comments, questions down in the comment section. Like always, I will talk to you in the next one, and like and subscribe.